The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, in the 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory, alongside the economical synods of bishops, archbishops, apostles, and senior clergy, has rejected United States President Donald Trump's claim that American military intervention ended the killing of Christians in Nigeria, describing the statement as misleading and disconnected from the realities of the country's security challenges. Trump had claimed during an event in Washington that U.S. military action against terrorist groups in Nigeria had significantly reduced attacks on Christian communities and weakened the leadership of those responsible for the violence. However, Northern CAN chairman Reverend Joseph Ayab argued that victims of insecurity remain the best judges of whether the situation had improved, stressing that killings, kidnappings, and attacks continue in parts of the country. While acknowledging ongoing counterterrorism operations, Nigerian authorities have continued to intensify efforts to tackle insecurity through military campaigns, intelligence operations, and security sector reforms. The government also pursued measures aimed at strengthening community-based policing, including the recently passed security policing legislation designed to improve coordination between security agencies and local communities in addressing threats. Ayab maintained that despite local and international interventions, Nigeria's security crisis requires sustained and coordinated efforts rather than claims of complete victory. Security analysts say lasting progress will depend on combining military action with improved intelligence gathering, stronger policing structures, and addressing the underlying factors driving terrorism and violent extremism across affected regions. And now to discuss the security realities behind the claims of the United States president and the concerns raised by Christian leaders, we are joined by Julius Gaiya, who is a security analyst based in northern Nigeria. And of course, he will be providing some insights into the country's evolving security challenges, the impact of counterterrorism efforts, and what the current situation means for affected communities. Julius, thank you so much for joining us on the news. So President Donald Trump claims that... yes, you're welcome. Now, we see that the president, that is President Donald Trump of the United States, said that military intervention has significantly reduced attacks on Christians in Nigeria. So from a security perspective, how accurate is his assessment?
Well, to be honest, looking at the statement, from the statement, I would just say that was a political soundbite. I think he just said it in the spot at the moment and doesn't completely capture what's really going on. I mean, if debate about whether it was a genocide, and even currently, how do civilians?
Hello, Julius. Julius, sorry to butt in. Can you please switch off your camera? Let's see if you can just take audio feeds from your end, because it seems as though the bandwidth from your network is distorting your response. So you can just switch off your video so we can just take your audio feeds, and you can continue. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Continue, sir.
Hello.
Yes, Julius, you can continue. We can hear you.
So, yes, so okay. So I was saying that I believe President Trump's statement was just what I'll call a soundbite, just something for people to hold on, because everyone knows, anybody who is in security business understands that you can't say some few airstrikes here and there and some few kinetic operations here and there has ended a problem. Even in fact, you want to be truthful. I mean, just the past week alone, the numbers of persons affected by either militants, bandits or terrorists haven't abated. There's still kidnappings going on in the country. I think what the picture really paints currently is that yes, there has been improvement in the targets being hit, especially if you go back to as far as the killing of Al-Manuki, and also a recent operation where about 24 ISWAP members were also killed, and also the ongoing air operations by the Air Force you can see some improvement, which I believe is thanks to the partnership with the US and the Nigerian forces. So to say he has ended genocide well, I just feel like I said, it's a soundbite. It's not something that we can't completely say that the security situation has improved to the extent where people are no longer dying. But we can say there has been improvements since the partnership started. And the hope now is that as the kinetic approaches are increasing, that the non-kinetic approaches take place. For instance, I would expect to hear from the President of the United States saying something in the line of bringing back the Institute of Peace, which I think he stopped funding when he came on board, which was aimed at peace-building initiative in the country, because that is one of the root causes of the challenges we're facing now. And it is, if you go back, you can say it is the evolution of what we are seeing in the parts of the Northwest, North Central, and what we call the Middle.
Hello, Julius. Julius, if you can still hear me. So you did say that security has improved even with the support of the United States military in counterterrorism. But then even at that, we are still seeing that these bandits, these kidnappers, these terrorists are still putting up a brave front and are brazenly still attacking people in different areas, and they seem to be moving into towns and urban areas. Is there a gap in intelligence gathering, or what is the problem, even with the support of the US, that we are not seeing accelerated improvements in their efforts?
Well, to be frank with you, even as the of something happening within the intelligence space, that because a lot of their allies within Africa pulling out meant that there were gaps in their intelligence picture. So the complete battle space, and also if you look at the AES situation with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, that also creates a vacuum. Nobody really understands, has the full battle space awareness. So yes, and these insurgents or bandits will utilize these gaps to move in. And again, I think that's one of the reasons why the state police bill got accelerated hearing and vote, is because the aim is that in the states, if you have domiciled people who understand the terrain, who live within the communities, they can provide timely and actionable. By the time the state police becomes operational, there will be a lot of improvements in getting full awareness of situation on ground. But yes, the US has complained about gaps, but I believe that there has been improvement, because if you follow the Air Force reports on strikes they've made, and also on strikes they've made on objectives, you find that there's been improvement way before the current. Unlike before, when there were some hit or miss, and then some situations where you say they don't know where XYZ person is. So there's improvement, if we want to be frank with the situation. The only thing I can say for sure, that these gaps will continue to exist until we have full picture of the battle space, which is have people on ground in communities who can provide this information. I believe state police, when operationalized, will help plug some of these gaps.
Okay, let's talk about the state policing system. Of course, the legislation is ongoing at several levels now, but then we are getting feelers from certain quarters that the government is being in a haste with approving or institutionalizing the state police. Some people are saying that the government is equally trying to politicize it. How do you see it in terms of the safeguards or the safety guards? There are even questions as regards if we've had enough stakeholder engagement as regards this particular bill before it's been ratified. Do you think that it can actually deliver on protecting Nigerians when it fully comes into place?
Well, thank you for your question. I mean, I haven't seen the full document yet, but from what I've seen from, I think, the president's spokesperson on new media and what he shared, regarding what the content is. I believe the safeguards do exist. But of course, as with Nigeria, there's a serious problem I see. That is, some certain terms were used which were not here, which were not based on those who have seen it, and the comments they've made were not completely defined and were not clearly defined, which leaves room for interpretation, which is, of course, which I find very dangerous in the business of security, because things need to be as straightforward as possible, especially, and then you look at the language. In certain parts, we talk about setting up some safeguards, which includes each state having its own police service commission. There's no clear language about the composition, especially in states that are not homogeneous, and how that will look like in order to ensure that every member of that state is carried along in the recruitment process, the staffing process, and even in decisions on things as the kind of how to approach certain security challenges which will come on board. Because if you look at states where he had to, before it became this bandit situation, some states dealt with issues that borders on intercommunal clashes, that borders on farmer headers, that even some borders on resource. So if we do not have, for instance, a state police service commission that encompasses everyone and takes everyone along, we might have this situation where some people are taking the side of one other side, and that we are creating more problems than going to the root cause and providing solutions to our security challenges. And the other thing I think that was not mentioned, which I find very disturbing, is how because justice is one of the issues why we are in this current situation. And even if you go back as early as there was this incident that happened where someone came out and was saying the reason why they are taking laws into their hands is because they take someone to the police station, the person is remanded in prison for XYZ, and the next thing they see the person out and the person is telling them that nothing will happen to them, they can get away with it. And that sends a very wrong signal, because when people can no longer believe in the justice system, then you find a situation where they start taking laws into their hands, and then you start when it's not even a bandit, it's a revenge killing because of the franchise that is going on. People frame it as bandit attack, which is very, very worrisome.
So that brings us to the point where you mentioned about the need to improve on our security architecture. Recently, we read the news about the Nigerian military having a reshuffle for the GOCs and the commanders. Do you think that would actually improve in any way Nigeria's fight against terrorism? Because this seems to be like the second time that we'll be seeing a reshuffle within the rank and file in Nigeria's military, of course, sect.
I mean, for the military and its rotation, which I think I saw yesterday, I mean, the idea, I believe, is to sometimes bring in fresh ideas into a position. Sometimes it's meant to move someone to a higher position in order to, because there's a vacuum has been created. It not necessarily means that there has been failure. I think what everyone will be looking at with this new rejig, especially if you're looking at the replacements in, I think, in operation, can't remember, the operation going on in the plateau and parts of not parts of Kaduna. One would expect that there will be more efforts to ensure that the clashes going on and the revenge killings and so on and so forth are curbed, and there's more efforts to encourage communities to sit down and talk instead of resorting to self-help and violence, because that is why the vicious circle continues. When people who are already who live in setting, or it's a matter of when, not if, that there will be some form of conflict. So it's important that I'm sure it's one of the things that people will be looking at, that will the dialogue come back to the plateau and be the new choice for settling grievances and differences as opposed to resorting to self-help.
Okay, so without having to spin a religious narrative around this, we need to wrap up on this now. It's very easy. Some Nigerians probably say it's very easy for CAN, for PFN, and all these religious institutions to either debunk narratives as regards counter-terrorism in Nigeria. But then, in terms of the roles of these religious persons and the institutions in the country, how would you assess their efforts in also helping to deal with insecurity in Nigeria? And of course, community efforts too. Would you say they have helped Nigeria in that regard, or there is more that they can do to beef up security, of course, in the country? Hello, Julius, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I said recently, I've been following some pages where young people are talking about how religion is either being weaponized and how they are trying to debunk certain narratives which push, which align to the bandits or intolerance, as you were. But I think, and that's important, I think those kind of conversations and narratives need to be encouraged. I see that is the main way, because funny enough, some of the clerics whom should be championing some of this preaching tolerance and preaching saying the truth as it is when regards something that is right or something that is wrong, they've not really helped matters, because of course some of them they've been dragged into politics, and when you mix religion and politics, is a dangerous cocktail for any society, and therefore you find a situation where certain individuals, because they want to drive narratives that will achieve a certain aim, they do away with what is right and what is wrong. And I'm happy that young people are taking it to themselves to have these conversations and bring out and say things as they are, and as uncomfortable, I think, as it must be for them, because it's not easy coming out to say it as it is. And so the government needs to find ways to ensure that these young persons who are interested in long-lasting peace within our communities of either faiths, having these uncomfortable conversations where they are calling out individuals who are trying to weaponize religion, faith, or belief, should be encouraged to continue to do so that we can start working towards a path where people do not weaponize religion, but where we can find a way where we coexist, tolerate each other, and find meaningful ways to push development within our communities.
All right, thank you so much, Julius Gaiya, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news. I hope that in no distant time we win the war against violent attacks and terrorism in the country. Thank you.